Hey, this is Alex Behrens with Maple Leaf Coffee Roasters in Roselle. I'm here today to talk about the February 2024 Club Coffee, a great coffee from the Amazonas region of Peru. Check it out. So just a reminder for everyone, the Club Coffee program is something we do here at Maple Leaf to allow folks to try a different coffee every month, roasted in one of three different ways. Members of the club receive an email and of course this video showing all the information about the coffee, how it was roasted, what kind of people might like each of the roasts, and they get a chance to influence which coffees we bring in as part of the club program as well. So it's a really cool thing to try out. We only have limited space. If it is something you're interested in, always feel free to drop us an email and we'll get you on the waiting list. So this month we have a coffee from Peru, and we always have coffees from Peru in the store probably about twice a year. Generally speaking, we always do a medium roast on all of our coffees from Peru. You get a nice chocolate, a little bit of a nutty feel out of these coffees. They're not really challenging coffees for most people. They're kind of just easy choices. There's nothing wrong about that kind of coffee, but we also don't do much compelling stuff with them when we sell Peru coffee to the general public. This coffee happens to be from the Amazonas region of Peru, which usually has a really kind of clean tasting, interesting coffee varieties going on in it. Generally speaking, we get something from the Cajamarca region. That's where you get a lot of coffee coming out of that has the kind of chocolatey feel to it. And I think this month, this is kind of one of those coffees that I'm always excited to do something outside the ordinary with, not just do a medium roast like I usually do for the Peru coffees, and try something just a little bit off the usual menu. So we have our usual roast of light, medium, and dark this month. This coffee roasted really quite easily. There was nothing super exotic or interesting or different about my choice of roasts for these three coffees. It was a really easy coffee to roast, very clean, very easy to get to where I wanted it to. And I think each of these three has something really interesting going on in it, as I usually hope every coffee club month does. Personally speaking, because I'm so used to Peru coffees doing a medium roast on them, I generally tend to gravitate towards the roast levels that are different than what I normally have. So this month I'm going to be trying to recommend the light and the dark, mostly because of that's what I usually do as a medium. Although if you're still going to be a person that chooses a medium roast this month, you're going to still have a nice time drinking this coffee. It's going to be a bit different than the Peru coffees that we normally have on our shelf for our regular customer base. So on the light roast side, this had a light feel to it overall. Generally speaking, light roast will. Not too dissimilar in some ways from a light roast of a Guatemalan coffee. This kind of feels like a little bit of a mix between drinking a light roast Guatemalan coffee with the sort of bright, floral, a little bit of the kind of raw bean sort of taste, which isn't a bad thing. You get a nice kind of lighter, cleaner taste and finish to it. Although you also get a little bit of a creamy, citrusy, interesting feel with a touch of kind of chocolate in the background. Each of these coffees does have a little bit of a nuttiness to them, and in the light roast, it was the most subtle of all three. So out of the light roast, you do get that kind of light Guatemalan feel, a tiny touch of like a cocoa powder feel in the grounds, but not too strong of a chocolatey flavor in the brewed coffee itself. There was a kind of sweet, easy, clean finish to that light roast as well. I think if you're a person that usually likes a sharp or acidic or tart light roast, this is probably not going to be the light roast coffee month for you. I would try to choose something a little bit different than that. But if you're a person that doesn't normally go for light roasts because of that kind of sharper, tartar feel, and you want something that's still approachable, the light roast would be a really great option as well. On the medium roast side, this is where it sort of hit the closest thing to a normal Peru coffee that we normally have on the shelf. The grounds did have a kind of like a berry finish to them, like a berry kind of flavor, which was a little bit different than what I normally would have expected out of a coffee from Peru. It was not as kind of bright as the light roast was, of course, which is not unexpected, but it had just a very mellow overall feel to it, which for a medium roast, sometimes they can be a bit fuller of a feel to them. This one just had a very easygoing feel to it in the grounds. The taste itself definitely had more of a juicy feel to it, which is fun. Both the medium and the dark roast had a juiciness to them that you normally don't see out of a coffee from Peru. I think that was probably the most distinctive quality for both the medium and the dark roast this month. You did get a little bit of a caramel kind of flavor out of the medium roast as well. Not as strong as the kind of caramel feel that you get out of a coffee from Papua New Guinea, or some other coffees that we've had in the club before. But I think the combination of that caramel tone plus the juicy finish really was an interesting combination of flavors in the medium roast side. Though I'm going to try to nudge people away from doing the medium roast this month just because that's usually what we do. I don't think that there's anything wrong with going with that choice. Just an overall very round tasting, juicy, nutty, chocolatey coffee that's going to have a really easy finish to it as well. On the dark roast side of things, this coffee still had that fuller flavor to it that you normally expect out of a dark roast. Not a super roasty flavored coffee though. We did roast this fairly dark this month, not quite to the oily territory that we can do sometimes with some other coffees, but it definitely got to the darker end of things. And that's a sort of fun opportunity for me to experiment a little bit with taking something that normally goes on the medium to light side a little bit darker to give it a tiny bit of a roasty flavor, but still try to retain some of those flavors that you would normally see in the lighter roast tones. On the dark roast side, you still retained a ton of that chocolatey flavor, turned more into the milk chocolate sort of things in comparison to the medium or light where you had more of a cocoa powder sort of feel. The caramel notes really still were present here too. Toss in a little bit of a buttery feel as well. I think that the dark roast really has something special going on in it. It had the interesting characteristic of also being juicy at this dark roast level too. Normally when you get to a dark roast with most coffees, you're really tasting that roasty sort of feel, and you kind of lose a little bit of a juiciness that you might see out of a coffee on the lighter roast side. And this dark roast just had that very clean, rich finish of a dark roast, but also the kind of lighter, sweeter, juicy kind of feel that I saw in the medium roast. And I think that makes this kind of a distinctive flavor overall. So if I had to choose any one of these three, just for that novelty of that juicy flavor as a dark roast, I'd probably go with the dark roast option this month for that reason. You still get a kind of light finish and a caramel tone through it, and not a super strong chocolatey flavor in the brewed coffee itself, but it's still there, and you're definitely not going to not see a little bit of a chocolatey feel to it as well. So this was a fun coffee overall. I'm really excited for people to give it a shot. My recommendation is to try something different than what you normally would out of one of our Peru coffees. This will be a coffee available for our club members this month in February. So I hope everyone gets a chance to check this out. And if you have any questions about the club program, always feel free to drop in the store or send us an email. And I'll catch you next month for another club coffee. See you soon.